According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, an enigma is something hard to understand or explain. To me, the most puzzling thing about this watch is why more people aren't talking about it. This is a Venezianico Enigma, and I'm just going to preface this video with this. If you understand that a watch can't be boiled down to just its spec sheet, this $630 watch might just be the watch for you. To be completely transparent, Venezianico did send this watch in and I don't have to send it back. But of course, that doesn't mean I'm not going to give you my completely honest thoughts. Also, if I sound a little bit sick, it's because I'm still fighting off bronchitis and a sinus infection, but I have too much to tell you about this watch. So I'm conflicted about the box design because on one hand, I like how they're leaning into their Venetian history, which sets them apart from other brands. But on the other hand, it can look a little bit tacky. The watch is front and center in the box, and the box is lined with this plushy cushion material, thereby elevating the whole unboxing experience. Even though this watch costs a little bit more than an entry-level Seiko, Venezianico went the extra mile of packaging their watch in a luxurious box, which I think reflects how they really care about the small but impactful things. And this will be a constant theme throughout the video. So let's cut to the chase. This is not for the spec hunter looking for the best watches on paper. This is powered by the NH39 regulator movement, and a regulator movement just means that the hands aren't on the same axle. On a normal watch, you have the center and usually three hands are attached to it. You have the hour, seconds hand, and minutes hand that are all attached there. But on this watch, you have two axles, one for the hour hand and one for the minute hand. This watch comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, around 47 millimeters in lug to lug, 11 millimeters in thickness, and a strapaholic 20 millimeters. Additionally, this has a beautiful sapphire crystal with a clear AR coating. So this beautiful fume red dial gradates along the periphery of the watch, and it reminds me of a rich cherry wine. According to my cousin, another way of describing this dial is by calling it angry or aggressive. And you know what? I can kind of see that. However, I'd still like to think that it's more like a festive, almost Christmas red color. But if you don't like this color, you can also opt for the blue, green, or purple variant. The style also has a sunray effect when you tilt it off axes. There are two applied rings on the watch, one on the 24-hour ring and one on the 60-minute ring. This 24-hour ring means that it takes an extra second to cognitively register the time. And the somewhat busy ring design perfectly balances out the simplistic Dauphine handset. The ring reminds you that this watch isn't your typical three-hand affair. I was actually looking for a regulator watch that this one might be homaging in terms of its ring design, but I couldn't find one. Some people won't be a fan that this doesn't have a running seconds hand, but personally it doesn't bother me at all because it's a dress watch. Another thing I want to give kudos to Venezianico is not for having a ghost date position. I also love the addition of their logo on the dial, and I know some people aren't going to be big fans of this move, but personally I really like their logo's design. Someone in someone's YouTube comment section said that they were trying to copy Vacheron Constant 10 with the cross. However, after going to Italy, not Venice however, I learned about how important churches are to Italian history, so I think that their logo does a great job at harkening back to that history. Another little tidbit is that if you look at this watch under a warm light, the Dauphine hands and the cross on the dial look almost goldish, and it reminds me of a Christmas ornament. Speaking of ornaments, I think that this watch makes the perfect holiday watch. It suits so many holidays. For instance, it was just Valentine's Day, and it really matched the whole theme of the day. If you're enjoying this video, I'd heavily recommend hitting that like and subscribe button, and hitting the notifications bell to get notified on the latest videos. And if you want to, I'd highly also recommend leaving a comment down below, just starting a conversation. What are you wearing? Because as always, I respond to the majority, if not all, of your comments in the comment section down below. And all these things really do help out the channel immensely, and they're free to do. I opted out of a bracelet because I haven't heard great things about the Canova bracelet, but your mileage may vary. Aside from that, this watch's leather strap is apparently made in Tuscany, and to be fair, it came out of the box a little bit stiff, but after wearing it for a while, it has conformed to my wrist almost perfectly. One thing I want to give kudos to Venezianico is for making a custom strap for their watch. Instead of using a generic strap, which leaves an unsightly gap between the case and the strap, they custom fitted it, and that's greatly appreciated on my behalf. The strap also has the same fume pattern that the watch dial has, underscoring once again how this brand puts effort into things that cannot be put on the spec sheet. This watch has 3 parts to the case: the upper case, the mid case, and the case backing. The bezel and the front of the lugs are polished, and I'm usually not a huge fan of polishing because it can make a watch look flat, but because this watch has multiple parts of the case, it looks 3-dimensional. The sides of the watch are beautifully horizontally brushed. I've had hands-on with their other watches in this category, and I can confidently say that the brushing on this watch has been done to the highest standard I've seen in this price segment. Really well done, Venezianico. The crown is brushed and signed with a raised cross that I'm a big fan of, as mentioned before. The case back has an engraving of a basilica, which I think is fitting. It actually wears quite well on my 6.5-inch wrist. Now, one thing I do have to say, however, is I wish it came in a smaller variation, just because I prefer my watches to be classically sized, especially if they're dress watches. This watch isn't the best in terms of legibility, and I don't think that this watch was going for that. In fact, it's actually called the Enigma because it's difficult to read, and the reason it's difficult to read is because the hour hand has a 24-hour dial. So you're reading off 24-hour time, and the minutes hand is the largest hand on this watch, and it it moves around the dial, and sometimes it actually covers up the hour hand, which is not ideal, but I think that kind of makes sense as to why this watch was named the Enigma, because it's quite difficult to tell the time. I mean, it's not impossible. You could still do it. It just takes a little bit more mental processing. Most of the time when reviewers say X on a budget, they usually mean that a watch has copied and pasted X's watch design. But in this case, I was not able to find a Moser that this Venezianico has copied and pasted. Correct me in the comment section down below if I'm mistaken. I think that the watch's ethos in terms of the dial design and the refined dressy look pays true homage to Moser and their design language. In fact, I'd actually say that this Venezianico looks better than some Mosers with fume dials. So here's a photo of a Moser with a similar fume dial, but I think it looks worse than the Venezianico because it has these chunky pilot-style hands that I think clash with the rest of the design. This watch only has 50 meters of water resistance, which is quite good for a dress piece, and there's no lume on this watch, which is fine for this type of watch. In terms of legibility, sometimes the minute hand blocks the hour hand, but aside from adjusting to a 24-hour dial, I'd say that this watch is quite legible. This is one of my most complimented watches in my whole collection. Watch enthusiasts and non-watch enthusiasts alike have complimented me while wearing this watch, asking what it was while complimenting the beautiful red wine color. Most of the time when reviewers say that a watch offers great value for money, they're usually just referring to the specifications of that watch. But with this watch, I would say that it offers great value for money as well. However, I would define value in this context as the things that make a watch more than just a time-telling device, such as the refined finishing on the flanks of this watch, such as the way that this watch reflects light, especially with yellow lights, and how it kind of looks gold in that light, such as the refined attention to detail with this custom fitted leather strap, such as the company most likely being able to stay afloat, which cannot be said for some other microbrands, considering that this is one of the only microbrands that has an in-person location in a very populated city. And you also have a thriving community of Venezianico owners who are parts of different online communities that communicate directly with Venezianico's team. I just want to give a huge shout out to Christian Galarza, who helped me out a ton with some of the B-roll and photos of this watch. That's why these photos look better than they usually do on this channel. So I definitely recommend checking out Venezianico's website to look at some of their collection. Honestly, they have been releasing tons of different watches. Just after I got this, Venezianico released their Meteorite Arsenale. They have some very interesting watches that are executed quite well considering how fast they're being put out. I am seriously appreciative of you for making it to the end of this video and just watching this entire video. Okay, thank you so much. I hope that this watch channel, Patina's, like your favorite watch. I'll see you in another episode on the Time Ticker.